because it's there. On this week's show, I want to talk about agency and why modern gaming really doesn't have it. If you got a high gamer score, you might want to buckle in. I'll begin by saying that I'm old. Thank you, Captain Obvious, I know. But I'm bringing that up not to make this whole video one long get off my lawn moment. No, I'm just trying to say that I've been there, I've done that, I've outgrown the t-shirts, as in plural. So with that in mind, I've seen gamerscore become this thing in video games over time. You call them anything you want to. Call them trophies, gamerscore, it's all basically achievements. These are rewards placed in games by developers for performing specific actions. You can get achievements for doing anything, from starting up the game to performing impossible feats. Seriously, to do this one you need to be a better drummer than Dave Lombardo on half of his gear. The achievements seem to fall into a couple basic categories. One is the unavoidable achievement, like kill X number of Y, which you're probably going to end up doing anyway achievement. This has varying degrees of difficulty naturally, so sometimes it's literally just play the game, get achievement, and other times, especially in MMOs, it's go defeat this boss, you need to complete this quest achievement, and it's not an easy boss. I mean, you'll get it eventually, just not usually in the first go. The second set feels like brag achievements. Watch the credits of the game, the dev brag achievement. Go over this one specific area off the beaten trail and go look at this cool thing that we made. Yeah, another brag achievement. Some are lampshade achievements too. It's like the programmer saying, yeah, we know you're going to do this anyway, so here, have an achievement for it, you pervert. Then you get a slew of impossible achievements. The aforementioned bloody feet from Guitar Hero, it falls right into that category. Stuff that you see someone getting and you go, wow, that guy needs a life. So yeah, there's a lot of achievements out there, and all of them add to your gamer score, or whatever you want to call it, but you know, there's just one small little minor fidgety detail that I'd like to bring up. Coin-op had no achievements. Back in my youth, games did not have achievements. The only one you could possibly argue was that there was a high scoreboard in all these games and you could jot your initials into it. You know, I have no idea who Andrew S. Smith is, but his initials were on so many games across the nation, he had to be really good. Games did not have much in terms of plot, nor endings, nor continues, so you just played as far as you could until the enemies got so fast and so plentiful you couldn't defend yourself anymore and you just died. Let's go back into the vaults. The Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the NES, the Sega games, they had no achievements because they really couldn't. Games didn't have save files, and the ones that did, they were just mind-blowing. Legend of Zelda can save my game! Wow! And this meant a big deal to us back in a time when the only option was to pause the game, walk away, and leave the console on while you did something like sleep or go to school or, you know, whatever. You know, actually come to think of it, the only achievements were actually kind of real-world based. I remember one specifically from Pitfall, what you might call an achievement now. You had to score over 20,000 points in Pitfall, take a picture of your TV, get it developed, mail the picture to Activision, and then they would mail you back a patch as sort of a reward. And incidentally, Activision, I never got my patch, and I would still like it, thank you large. Okay, yeah, some arcade games did similar, in which you would actually take a physical picture of the screen, get it developed, send it into someplace, and then collect your prize. But as games kind of moved into the home market, this became unnecessary. Incidentally, Atari, I never got my Road Blaster shirt either. You know, I don't recall seeing much of achievements until games had things like memory cards, and they weren't really called achievements back then either. Ratchet and Clank, they called them skill points, and it rewarded specific actions with bonuses like alternate costumes, or behind-the-scenes artwork, or access to their commercials, nothing major. Then the Xbox came along, and they introduced the idea of gamerscore, and basically, all bets were off. Now, every game had points that you could earn, and would be visible for the world to see. You know, you couldn't just say, I beat the game, you could show somebody your gamerscore and say, see? Proof. Now, hang on a second. Why do we even need achievements in the first place? Why do we even need this whole gamer score thing? Well, I could kind of look at this from Skinner's aspect again, but I don't want to trot that out. Let's look at this from a business standpoint. It makes you play longer. I've said this before, but it bears repeating at this point. Game companies have this problem. How do they keep you playing their game longer? The reality of gaming is that once you're finished with a game, you're going to box it up and you're never going to touch it again. The best case scenario for a game company is that the game sits on your shelf as a trophy. The worst case scenario is that you're going to return it to your local game store and sell it. That's revenue out of their pockets, and if they want to continue to be in business, they can't do that. So how do you keep somebody playing your game with minimal cost? Achievement points. You killed 5,000 enemies. You just traveled the whole world by foot. You've skipped dinner. Really, that's what most of these achievements are. It's a way to reward the player with minimal effort for spending more time with the game. That isn't counting the throw the controller across the room frustration achievements, like the ones where you have to race under a specific time frame and the AI is constantly rubber banding and they're always killing you and you keep on missing the time by hundredths of a second, or that perfection achievement where you have to kill the boss without taking a single hit and there's always that one cheap shot right at the end. Each one of these ploys is not to show your skill as a gamer, as much as it's just to keep the game in the tray as long as possible. It's a money game. Even in this age with digital downloads, the mentality is the same. Keep the game on the drive, keep the player playing it as long as possible.
And it's become a status symbol of sorts because you can just whip it out and flail it all around and show people how awesome of a gamer you are. Bigger gamer score you have, the more awesomer of a gamer you are. Now, it gets a little more complicated in some games because in some games, your gamer score or achievements actually affect your power level. And that's just messed up to the core.
DCUO, good example. Granted, I haven't played for a while, but this might have changed, but I doubt it. They call achievement feats, and for every 100 feat points, you gain a skill point to put into your powers. Literally, you get more powerful by gaining achievements. So doing that race challenge, it can actually make your blasters more powerful. The next layer of this is how feats are shared between characters. If you have multiple alts, you can use replay badges to simply buy them on your alts rather than having to do it again. Replay badges cost real-world money, by the way. Subscription will get you some, but just spending the cash, that'll get you a lot more.
So the incentive is out there. Okay, granted, in some games like World of Warcraft, it's all cosmetic, but in other games, achievements are power. And if you suck at racing games or you can't speedrun it very well, too bad. Sucks to be you. You're out of the loop. That's it. You're closed off. You're going to conquer this game and you're going to do it our way.
Achievements tend to lock players into this mentality of, this is how we play, this is how it's done. Like when World of Tanks started having achievements, the feeling I got from World of Tanks people was like, it's that kid trying to say, come on, you're not supposed to play that way, you gotta play my way. If you tried to get any of the achievements, your own team would yell at you in chat for being completely useless. It really seemed to me like the dev team was just way out of step with what the players actually did in their game. Now, had they introduced achievements on launch, now that would be a different story. Once a pattern is set in gaming, it rarely breaks, so if through achievement rewards players learn a specific behavior, they're going to keep doing that as long as it's rewarding. There's no time for a personal challenge. I gotta get 500 kills, and I gotta beat this boss in 3 minutes, and I gotta get my gamer score up.
So you ready for the punchline? Achievement-based gaming is kind of like playing with horse blinders on. You're specifically going for the achievements and not trying to play the game itself. And by doing this, by focusing only on the achievements, you're basically not deviating from the path that the dev team has set up for you. Essentially, dev teams have ripped away our sense of agency.
Let's go back to the old arcade games for just a minute here. Why would we play them? This might sound condescending to modern ears, but back in the 80s, video games were a novelty. Just to play them was a treat unto itself because it involved going to a physical arcade, and that's not something you did every day. And every game cost 25 cents, so you only had so many plays in that day too. The challenge was to make whatever money you had last all afternoon before you had to go home. And getting the high score, that was a bonus. And if the arcade offered free pizza to the high scorer of the week, even more so. We played vids because we wanted to play vids. This goes for the home consoles too. As primitive as they were, with no real external reward, we just wanted to play them for the sake of having fun with it. And as achievements crept in, I think that sense of playing for fun has taken a back seat for playing for the reward. This is why I find it funny when game devs complain about gamers consuming content so fast. They made this monster by having goal-driven gaming, and now they gotta deal with it. A lot of gamers have become blind to the fun aspect of gaming. Oh, sure, they'll take on challenges, but only if there's a tangible reward to it. And once the reward is gained, the game is just tossed and the new game begins. They only do what the devs give them a reward for, and nothing more. They won't motivate to their own challenges.
Because it's there. Everest is the highest mountain in the world, and no man has reached its summit. Its existence is a challenge. The answer is instinctive, a part, I suppose, of man's desire to conquer the universe. George Mallory, 1923. If you're playing a game only to get that gamer score, then you're really not exercising any sense of agency. You're simply just walking the path that somebody else has blazed before you. And the sad thing is that most achievement gamers will happily put on the horse blinders and just run down that trail and then brag to everybody behind them how much they suck because they don't have as high a number as they do. And that's the real tragedy. And yes, I'm aware that Mallory died on Everest in 1924. He still went for it.